Hi there. Welcome to Conocete, a show all about discovering yourself and personal development. We are Adelaida Harrison and Adelaida Andrea Vargas, and we are so excited to have you join us every Saturday at noon. Today, we're thrilled to have a special guest from the world of the Enneagram to talk about a really important topic for understanding our personalities. I'm talking about defense mechanisms, which play a huge role in our lives. I would like to welcome our dear Adelaida to introduce our special guest.
Hi, thank you for being here. And I'm very glad to do this in English. It's an experiment because we know a lot of teachers that live in the other countries that have a richness that they are going to share. And today, our first guest is Jerry Wagner. He's doctor in psychology, psychotherapy, but mostly he's one of the first students on the Enneagram. He is part of the history of the Enneagram. And we are very happy to have him here sharing defense mechanisms of the Enneagram with us. Welcome, Jerry. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And I apologize that I only know Espanol poquito. So this will be in English. Yes.
Yes, we know, and we are going to translate so people can get the benefit from listening directly from you.
All right.
And Jerry, we would like you to explain to the audience what the Enneagram is and how it has influenced your life.
Well, it's a system of personality style. So it's a way of being in the world and thinking about the world and feeling about the world and acting in the world. And it's really good at describing our internal motivations, why we do what we do. And so I found it very helpful when I first learned the Enneagram in 1971.
Wow.
I'm really old. That's 50 years ago. Oh, and I just found it very helpful in describing why I do the things that I do. Now, I still do them, but at least now I know why I'm doing them. Yeah. So, and you've asked me to talk about the defense mechanisms today?
Yes, we would like you to explain very easy to understand what is a defense mechanism and why each type has one.
And why is it important to know about them?
Okay. All right. Well, the defense mechanisms, originally Sigmund Freud in psychoanalysis, and his daughter Anna Freud has a whole book on defense mechanisms. And a man by the name of Claudio Naranjo, who is a psychiatrist, he's from, where was he from? South
Chile.
America.
Chile. From Chile.
Chile, yeah. And so now he took one of those defense mechanisms and put them around the Enneagram circle. So he's the one who thought this Enneagram, this defense mechanism fits this style. But feel free to use all the defense mechanisms. We can use them all. But some just seem to fit certain types. So, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. That's a great observation because we usually know or listen that the defense mechanisms are random and people use it randomly. But it's interesting that if we understand that each type has one defense mechanism, the main one, not the only one, would be an accurate appreciation.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go into our subject.
Good. Could you mind give us a brief description of every personality, of each personality type, and telling us about their defense mechanisms and a real life example?
Okay. Well, do you want me to go around and do all 9 first?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. So let me start with my understanding of what the value of each type is. So real briefly, when I learned the Enneagram, we just learned what was wrong with each type. And now I thought, well, what's right with each type?
Wow.
And so what got distorted? And so I think for the ones, they want to be good. That's what they value. They want to realize all their potentials. They want to make the world a better place. They want to make their children, their husbands and wives and co-workers better. And so they're into improving people. The twos value loving. Not that ones don't love, but that's kind of a specialty for twos. Why are we here? We're here to love one another. And so they have a natural gift for sensing what other people need.
Uh, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I think it would be easier for people to follow if you start with the one, just like you did, and
Yeah.
then we can go through the one and the defense mechanism and everything.
And then we'll go around.
People join it later, they can get the idea of the 2 or the 4 or the 6.
Yeah.
That would
Okay.
give us a little, it's okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay. So we go back to the one, and the true nature of the one, or what kind of ones are born to, or kind of what the aspect of human nature or even divine nature that they show off is goodness. And so they want to be good people, and they want to help other people be good, realize all their potentials. It's something that they want. But then something happens. They kind of lose touch with that good, I don't know, the true nature. And so their personality has to recreate it, and it exaggerates it. So if you take goodness and push it too far, now you got the perfectionist. I have to be good. It goes from I want to be good to I have to be perfect.
Okay.
And then you start to think of yourself, well, I'm good, I'm right, I'm conscientious, I have high standards, I try hard. That's what makes me special, and people will like me because of that. But if you start to look at those parts of yourself, other parts you don't want to be seen. So if I'm good, I'm not bad. If I'm serious, I'm not frivolous. If I have high standards, I don't have no standards. And so those are parts of ourselves that I call the blind spot, or the parts of ourselves we avoid. And we want to keep those from our awareness. And so we have defense mechanisms. The defense mechanism for the one is reaction formation. Do the opposite. So it's like, if you're tempted to exercise less, exercise more. If you're tempted to eat more, eat less. Do the opposite of what you're tempted to do.
Yeah, but what happens when you are angry with some people and how do you apply the defense mechanism in a one?
Yeah. Well, so if you're angry at somebody, then you become very nice to them.
Uh-huh.
You kill them with kindness.
But are you aware of that you're doing that, or is it unconscious?
No, it's unconscious. If it's working, you're not aware that you're doing it. So your unconscious keeps that anger from becoming conscious, and you again below your awareness are nice to the person.
Okay.
Or the opposite, if you think you have to be tough and mean and strong, then whenever you might feel weak, you do the opposite. You become even more strong, or even more of a boss. Yeah.
And so if I become aware of that behavior, could I change it as a one?
Yeah.
Oh,
So you become aware of, oh, okay, where is this coming from? And what part of me am I avoiding, don't I like? So
Okay.
then you have to make friends with that part.
Okay.
Yeah. What's that angry part really trying to do for you?
That's great. I want to say that we got your book, El Eneagrama y su espectro de estilos de personalidad, which is the translation of a book you recently.
Why don't you show it?
You recently presented. I don't know what's the title in English. Can you tell us?
Yeah, it's just called the Enneagram Spectrum of Personality Styles.
Okay, and you have another great book, which is The 9 Lenses of the Enneagram, which is a resume of all you need to know about the Enneagram.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, it's great and useful, but it's not in Spanish. So let's go to type 2 and tell us which is a name and how does it look before talking about the defense mechanism, please.
Okay, so the 2, different people call 2s different things. I call them the loving person, because that's what life is all about. We're here to love one another, to help each other, to support each other, to build each other up, not tear each other down. And so that's something that 2s really value. It's what they're good at. They're very good at complimenting us, at praising us, and really kind of making us feel good about ourselves. So that's a gift that the 2s have. Now, what happens is they go from, I want to do that, I feel good about doing that, to I have to do that. If you're going to like me, then I have to really meet all of your needs. So I become a helper. And if I have any needs, then I have to suppress them and repress them. And so if you ask a 2, what do you need? You get kind of a blank look on their face. Well, I don't need anything. What do you need? Like asking a 5, what are you feeling? And the 5 will tell you what they're thinking, because 5s repress the feelings. 2s repress their own needs. And what they can then do is project those needs onto other people and, trick themselves into thinking they're meeting their own needs by helping someone else's needs get met. So repression is the defense mechanism. And again, it's out of their awareness. They're not aware that they're doing it. That's why they don't really have a good sense of what they need, but they have a really good radar for sensing what other people need. It's their gift.
For example, if I feel sad, what could be the projection? I project the sadness in a person.
Yeah, then other people are sad. And so then your job is to kind of help them feel better. And you could, the 2 will say, well, you look very sad. What are you so sad about? Or how can I help you?
Okay.
And the other person might say, I wasn't aware that I was sad. Maybe I am. You say so. Yeah.
How do you call the type 3?
The effective person.
The effective person, right.
Yes. So the 3 values getting things done, and they're very good at accomplishing things. They want to make the world a more efficient place. And they could start with, my life, and they would be working for the rest of their life to make me more efficient. They just have a natural ability to know what the goal is, to know what they have to do to get to the goal, figure all that out, and then they do it, and then they're finished. So they're very good, and they're very competent, and they're very good motivators. They like to get us thinking, hey, you can do that too. Now, they go from liking to accomplish things, liking to check things off on their list, to having to do it. So if you are going to like me and accept me, I have to be successful. So they can become workaholics. And if there are any signs of not being successful, they push that down. And the defense mechanism is identification. So they identify with whatever is popular and working in their culture.
Okay.
So this originally goes back to Freud, who says, the little boy wants to get rid of the father and marry the mother. The little girl wants to get rid of the mother and marry the father, but that doesn't work. And so they identify with the same-sex parents. So the little boy identifies with the father, the girl identifies with the mother, and takes on their values. So the 3 takes on the values of their culture, whatever particular part of that culture they belong to, because they think that's going to make them successful and likable. Now, identification is good, because if you identify with a model who is doing something that you would like to do, that's fine. But the 3s do it unconsciously. They're doing it out of their awareness. And again, it's something not that they so much want to do, but they have to do it.
And what happens with their feelings?
What happens to their feelings?
With their feelings?
Well, a lot of times the 3s will kind of push their feelings down because they get in the way of achieving things. So they're doers, and they want to act. Now, on the other hand, they might allow feelings that are okay in their culture to emerge. So it might be okay to be angry in your culture. It might be okay to be sad, might be okay to be happy. And so those feelings would be allowed to come out, but not ones that are not accepted by your culture.
Okay, for example, if getting angry is not okay in that society, they won't get angry, but
Correct.
they would allow other feelings to show up.
That's right.
This is interesting.
But what happens with 3s at the end of the day? Adelaida says, tell me to go to type 4. So why don't we dive into type 4?
Into 4s. Okay. So 4s, in contrast to the 3s, are very much in touch with their feelings. I taught this in an undergraduate college course, And I asked some of the fours, well, what are you here for? And they said, we're here to feel for the world. I
Wow.
thought that's a great description.
Mhm.
Their neighbors, the five, of which I am a member, we're here to think for the world.
Okay.
And threes are here to do for the world. So it's, we've got different values. So fours value being unique, authentic. They like to go deep into things, be deeply connected to other people. They value beauty. So one of the things that fours say is they're here to make the world more beautiful.
Okay.
Where they are, there is beauty. That's very nice. But now you go from wanting to do that to I have to be special. I have to be different. I have to be unique. Otherwise, you won't accept me. Or if I'm ordinary, then I'm nobody. And so fours are going to use, well, they use a couple of defenses, according to Ichazo. One of them is introjection.
Mhm.
And so fours are often kind of sad and melancholy. It's a sweet sadness because they've introjected the lost person, the lost dream, the lost pet, rather than grieving and letting that person or hope go. They carry it around and kind of grieve. It's an extended grief, introjection.
But
Freud
could
talks
you
about
say,
that.
sorry to interrupt you, could you say a little more about introjection? Because it's a very difficult defense mechanism that people do not understand.
Yes, that's right.
What does it mean, introjection?
Well, it means to literally throw in, introjatio, to throw within yourself. I think now we all do it according to some psychoanalytic principles. So we take in our parents, we take in our teachers, we take in our siblings, we introject them, and then they're like voices in our head. And so we kind of listen to them because we've taken them in.
Mhm.
Adolescents throw that all out.
Okay.
That's why they're so rebellious. They just kind of toss out anything their parents ever said or the church. It's kind of anti-introjection.
Okay.
But introjection itself is a positive thing. Well, one thing is if you can take in what the other person is thinking and feeling, you can be empathic towards them. You can understand them. But that's doing it in a conscious way. When you do it unconsciously, you're kind of taking that in, and maybe the person you've taken in is not good for you. Maybe they're giving you bad messages, not helpful messages, and yet you keep following them. And so you might need to put that person outside of your boundaries where they were in the beginning. The other thing that fours do real quick is artistic sublimation. That's something that Claudio Naranjo added. So for fours, they're very special, they're very unique, they're very deep. So mere words are not enough to describe their experience. They need to write a play about it, a poem, perhaps create a dance, do some music, do some painting. It's like you need to somehow dramatize, make even more special your experience.
So
Okay.
going back to what you said about force, that they are here to feel for us,
Yes.
like kind of teaching or telling people what it feels certain feeling. What
Well,
looks
they
like.
might do that, or I think what Forrest will do is ask us, "How are you feeling?"
Okay.
Fives would ask, "How are you thinking?" Threes would say, "How are you doing?" Twos would say, "What are you feeling?" Now, that's important to them.
But Jerry, the idea is to get rid of the defense mechanisms, right? To make them aware.
Well, or to be aware of it.
Uh-huh. And
Yes. Why
try.
am I feeling sad? Or
Uh-huh.
where is that voice in my head coming from? Who's
Uh-huh.
saying that? Does that sound like my mother, my father? Does that sound like my first grade teacher? Where's that message coming from that I
Okay.
hear?
Great.
Perfect.
Now we have to dive on your type.
Yes. So we'll have to spend a day or two on this because that's right.
The best type.
So the five. All right. So the four and the 3 and the 2 tend to come from their feeling center. 5, 6, and 7, we kind of prefer our heads. So this is the thinking place. So the self-image for the 5 is I'm wise, I understand, I'm perceptive. 5s like to know. We like to read and put things together, like the Enneagram. And so, yeah, we just value knowing. What makes a good day for me is I learned something.
Okay.
4 might say I had a very deep conversation with somebody. 3 say I got something done today. 2s, I helped somebody today. 1s, I made somebody a little better today.
Yeah.
5s, we learned something. Now, you exaggerate that and you get the egghead, the person, I don't know what the Spanish for that is, but a person who's too much in their head.
Mental.
Yeah, mental. And not paying enough attention to the body. A 5 I know said, my body is here to carry my head from room to room.
We're going to talk about its defense
For the
mechanisms
5, right.
for
All right. So there are 2, according to 2 appropriately fitting the 5 for Claudio Nerano. The first one is isolation. That's a little bit what I
Okay.
said when you ask a 2 what they need. They don't know what they need because they've projected their needs out. With 5s, we push down our feelings, and all that's left is our thinking. So with most people, you have an experience and you have a thought and a feeling about it. So if you ask somebody, how do you feel? They'll tell you, I'm tired, I'm a little upset, I'm irritated.
Okay.
If you ask a 5 that, we might say what we think,
Okay.
or I don't know what I feel right now. I don't feel much of anything because it's been pushed down. It's called isolation. Compartmentalization is you take one time in your life and you put it as, okay, that's there. Now you got this time. Now you have that time. So, like I'm a therapist, so I see somebody for an hour, then I see someone else for an hour, then I see someone else for an hour. Or, when my wife was alive, I would come home and she would say, well, I thought about you today. Did you think about me?
Oops.
Well, yeah, I sort of. But when
Okay.
you compartmentalize,
Okay.
you're just right here.
So it's like putting a box, closing
Yes.
it, and until you open it again, you don't think or feel about anything.
And,
right.
and in your case, how did you do isolation?
Oh, I do it all the time. So I push those feelings down. And so I'm more interested in thinking, figuring things out, as opposed to how do I feel about it, but what do I think about it?
But I want to ask you as a 5, and
Yeah.
maybe this is our last chance.
Why our last chance?
No, well, I hope we have another chance to talk to you. But 5s, we understand that they're very sensible, but they push it down.
Mhm.
And after the event, for example, the death of someone, you don't feel in the first moment, but then you go isolate yourself and then you let yourself feel. I would love you to tell us a little bit about this, because this is very difficult to understand for other people.
Yeah. Well, think about when you're in a trauma, like if you're in a plane and it crashes and you get off the plane because you don't have time to feel anything, but you just said, okay, what do I have to do? And you get off the plane, and then maybe a half hour later or a day later or 2 minutes later, all those feelings come up. But in the trauma situation, you push them down. So it sounds like 5s are, every situation is a trauma. So we push those feelings down. And then when you're alone, you can reflect back on that situation. So a lot of times I would feel closer to my daughter and wife when I'm by myself and away from them than when I'm with them. And they would say, well, that doesn't do us much good. Can you say some of that while you're here with us?
Yeah.
But I think that's what happens when it's safer. Nobody's going to laugh at you and make you look foolish. And so it's okay to let those feelings come up when you're by yourself.
Okay, but you do feel and
Oh,
you
yeah.
do connect feelings.
but that could be the work what your wife told you, no? To in presence, you be to be more loving instead of
and to pay attention. And so we did an exercise in the course of the day, come home, and what did you feel today?
Okay.
I would have about 3 feelings, and she would have about 33 feelings.
Okay.
But at least it's a start. So you start to be aware of, okay, pay attention to how am I feeling about this?
Okay.
To practice. Yeah.
Let's jump to 6 now.
Yes.
To
All
type
right,
6.
6s. Now 6s are going to feel anxious and fearful. They'll admit that. That's the style that wants to be loyal and faithful and keep their word, do what they said they were going to do. And so they value tradition, they value their families. They're very good hosts and hostesses, making people feel welcome. They're very responsible, kind of like ones. If you exaggerate that, now, oddly enough, you say, well, what's wrong with being loyal? Well, if you push it too far, you get the fanatic. I'm very loyal to my cause, but God help you if you belong to something else. I'll have to convert you or kill you. So it's an extreme form of being loyal and faithful. So what happens then with 6s is they use projection.
Okay.
And whenever any kind of rebellious or devious or, whatever goes against what they should be doing, they're very lawful. If they have any unlawful thoughts, they project those out. And so we're trying to get away with things. So 6s might become, police officers and FBI agents and, bishops and, people who are looking out, make sure people don't get away with things. The other thing I don't know about projection, but 6s want to make the world safe and secure. And so they meet inspectors and building inspectors and, water inspectors to make sure that we're not going to get poisoned or sick with anything. What they might do is project out some of their fears. And so they see fear where there may not be any, or here's a little fear and they make it big. I think we all do that. We're looking for certain things. They're looking for danger. And so they might see it. Maybe it's there, but maybe they've exaggerated it. So each of the types are going to do that.
And how does that look in everyday life?
For a 6?
Yeah,
well, okay. If you get suspicious, then you might think other people are talking about you, or they're out to get you, or they don't like you. And because, you're looking for danger, and so then you make it up. And so the 6 needs to say, okay, if the AA is if you spot it, you got it. If you see something in the other person,
that's because
you wouldn't notice it unless there was something like that in you.
Okay.
So bring the projection back and say, okay, where's the little terrorist in me?
Okay.
Okay.
So you can project also positive and negative things, right?
Positive things also. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you need to reclaim that. Well, if I recognize the positive qualities in you, the positive quality in me must be there to recognize that.
Okay. That's
So,
a good point.
Exercise.
Bring it back. Yeah.
That's great. Well, let's jump to 7.
7s. All right. Okay. Now 7s, 6s, the world is kind of a dangerous place. For 7s, I don't know what the expression is in Spanish. The world is their oyster. It has all good things in it. And so they want to go out in the world and, taste and see everything. They want to have as many experiences as they can, as many adventures as they can. And it's a very hopeful, positive place. So it's really kind of not a fearful place so much as a kind of an excited place. Oh, this world is really interesting. If you push that too far, you get the Pollyannish person. So everything has to be good. Everything has to come up roses. Everything has to be positive. And that's the defense mechanism, sublimation. So 7s make lemonade out of lemons. They take something that, looks like, well, that doesn't look like it's very good. And they say, oh, yes, it is. Why, yes, it is.
Okay.
Uh,
They add sugar to everything.
But he said sublimation,
Sublimation.
sublimación.
yes, they lift it up and it becomes something good.
I thought it was a rationalization. I don't know how to say
That's
it.
another defense mechanism that,
For sevens?
that some people put in there. Yeah.
Okay.
And in a way, sublimation is a kind of a rationalization. Well, you bought that car and it's not running very well. Oh, yes, but it's a very unique kind of car. No one else has a car like this.
Uh-huh.
It's always in this service station.
Okay.
So you rationalize your choices or
Okay.
situation.
It would be similar. I might say something incorrect as one. That one has to make everyone perfect, and the seven has to make himself always perfect, and all the experiences have to be great on their own lenses.
Well, they want to make everything positive. That's
Okay.
right. So let's find the good in this.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
And so you do some that's the rationalization. Well, let's find out what's good about this.
Okay.
We are right now at
Eight.
type 8. Type 8. That's
Yeah.
known as the leader, the protector.
Yes.
So what can you say about this?
All right. So the 8 is in the world. They want to make the world a more just place. And 7s want to make it more positive and hopeful and enjoyable. 8s want to make it more just. So they value being strong, being autonomous, standing on their own 2 feet, being independent. That's important for them. And everybody gets, what is their due. Maybe 8s get a little bit more, but, they want to spread that justice around. What happens is if you exaggerate strength, you get the bully. You go from being assertive to aggressive, or justice. The 8 decides what's just and what's not just.
Mhm.
And so they become the over justice makers. Okay. And the defense is denial. Denial is a kind of a very strong form of repression. Alcoholics are also denying. I'm not an alcoholic.
Mhm.
Well, how come you're always asleep on the floor in the living room every time we come home? I'm tired. Oh, I see. I'm not alcoholic. I had an aunt who said, I do not have cancer.
Right.
She died of cancer.
Mhm.
So that kind of denial is I don't see it, I don't hear it, I don't believe it. So that's kind of what 8s
Exist.
do. And the one thing they deny particularly is any kind of weakness in themselves. Because if you are supposed to be strong and a leader and, confident, then you can't show any kind of weakness. You're not allowed to be doubting, you can't, being a phony is not very good for 8s either. And so they would deny any kind of weakness in themselves. I can do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Annex. Well, no,
No,
it's fine.
it was
no?
pretty clear.
Yeah. Very clear. Very clear. So we
Yeah.
go to 9.
Do the 9s. Okay. Very different space. So 9s are in between the 8s and the 1s. A lot of energy on either side of them. And 9s are kind of, oh my God, what am I doing in the middle of this hurricane, or the cyclone? And so the 9s want to make the world peaceful. They have a good sense of how we are all one. So I suppose at the top of the Enneagram circle, they can look down and see how we're all really more alike than different. And we all belong and we're all, basically the same. And so being harmonious, peaceful, calm is a value for 9s. What happens is they exaggerate it, and it's like peace at all cost. Go along to get along. And so you become overly accommodating, or you overly identify with the other person, and then that removes any kind of conflict because, oh, well, I agree with you. I'm in perfect agreement with you, as opposed to, well, I disagree about some things. Now, they would think conflict ruins the relationship. It's going to take people apart. But actually, conflict sometimes makes nice contact, but they're afraid of it. And so they project out a lot of their anger. The defense mechanism is a big word, and Freud doesn't really have it. It's narcoticization, numbing yourself.
Uh-huh.
And so nines, a little bit like twos, don't know what they need because they're more concerned about, well, what do you want? And I'll do what you want, and then we'll get along. And so if they sense any kind of anger or trouble or conflict, they don't trust it. And so they numb it out. They might, turn to alcohol. They might turn to chocolate. They might turn to marijuana. They might turn to just going asleep. But they kind of numb themselves to their own agenda and pay attention to, well, what do other people want? And then they'll like me.
Or numbing with television or with reading or with
exactly. That's
I
right.
think other people's interest, it's a very a good way of numbing yourself.
What?
Going and thinking of other people.
Yeah.
It's a way to numb yourself.
Yeah. And so, whereas fives, we're really good on boundaries. This is me, that's you. With nines, the boundary becomes really porous and it becomes we rather than me and you. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of get lost in the other person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfectly understood. Now, what do we do with all this information and the defense mechanisms?
Very good. Well, we've been kind of saying it. So if you can make it become aware of it.
Okay.
So I'm my computer is in front of me, and I can see the screen. I can see the YouTube, and it's right there. But behind it, I have no idea what's going on back there. I mean, there are programs running. That computer is doing things that I have no idea what it's doing. That's like our unconscious, our mind. It's doing a lot of stuff back there. And my words are coming out of my mouth, but there's something in my brain doing all that. So what the Enneagram helps us to do is look at that computer system that's working behind us. What am I motivated to do? What am I thinking? Besides a computer, the other thing is lenses. So I've been looking at you through my lenses, forgot all about them, but actually everything comes through these lenses. So the Enneagram helps us take off our lenses and look at them. Okay. Are your lenses rose-colored? Everything looks good. Are your lenses gray? Everything looks kind of gloomy. Do you magnify things with your lenses, or do you make things small with your lenses? And so the Enneagram says, well, we got 9 different lenses. Mm-hmm. Let's look at them. It's like when you go to an eye exam, they look at your glasses and then they say, well, does this look better? Does that look better? Does this clear it up? Does that make it clear? So what we're encouraging ourselves to do is look at those lenses. And the defense mechanisms are, in a way, kind of lenses that they're operating, but we're not aware of it. So reaction formation, what am I reacting against? I was just talking to somebody recently who's in a state of insecurity and not knowing. And it's really, who wants to be insecure and not knowing? He's, looking for a job and all of this. And so, okay, rather than run away from that, stay with that insecurity. What is so awful about it? And maybe something good will come from that. And so if you're repressing something as you're a 2, you wouldn't know you're repressing it, but pay attention to other people's needs. Does that tell you something about your needs? For 3s, if people are inefficient, you are the efficiency expert and you're identifying with, what works. Well, is there something inefficient in you? Pay attention to that. 4s are projecting their ordinariness out onto us. So we have no taste. We have no class, but they do. And so where is that ordinary person in them? 5s, we're surrounded by dunces, people who don't know anything. Yeah, well, so where's the not knowing part of us? And 6s are surrounded by people who are trying to cause trouble, get away with things, they're unlawful. Where's that part of you? So you're looking out to see what's in you. 7s are looking at people who are sad and gloomy, and are kind of depressed. Well, where's that sad part of you?
Okay, how interesting.
And with the 8s, you're seeing all these sissies and wimps. Well, where's that little scared part of you? And can you go back and protect that part, or just try to understand it? Don't throw it out. And with the 9s, where's the part of you that has an agenda, that's upset, that's angry, that's irritated? But, you see that in other people, and you're trying to calm them down. Well, what does that part of you need? So I suppose what I'm saying is take a look at your projections. We do that. All of us do it. And then basically you're kind of re-owning them.
Okay.
Where's that part in me?
It's great. This is just a little taste that we give people about you and as mechanisms, and we are very honored to have you here. Thank you very much. We have 1 minute left, so we would like you to tell us which idea would you like to leave people, a closing idea or thought.
Okay. I'm stealing this from someone else. Internal family systems is a therapy system. And Richard Schwartz has a new book out, and it's called No Bad Parts. I really like that title. So there are no bad parts. Whatever it is in us that we don't like, I wish that weren't there. I'd like to throw that out. What is that part trying to do for you? It's really there for a reason, and it's not a bad part. Get to know that part, and then welcome that part in.
That's great. Very nice.
Welcome. I shouldn't say this. Welcome in those immigrants. There are no bad parts. Yeah.
No.
I want to thank you very much.
We feel very honored to have you in the show. Thank you so much. And thank you to all our production
members,
team.
Production team. We don't use that much English, but thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who is here today with us. And thank you, Jerry, for being here. This is Conócete with the Enneagram, and we are Andrea y Adelaida.
We'll see you next Saturday.
Thank you very much.